It means so much more, but it's easy to say it means friend or ally, but it's a friendly word. Don't take movies about Indians seriously. It's amazing how many people see a Western movie and think that's how life really was, or that's who we really are. And over the centuries, people would not allow us to speak for ourselves. And a lot of people began speaking for us and about us, and they purposely misled people about us for almost forever. We were kind of the medical branch of Indian people in this area. We had medicine. Every single growing plant has a medical ability to help cure. That's why they're here. Everything that grows. I have a friend from Mexico who said that every single plant has a healing property to it. But if we don't know what that healing property is, we call that plant a weed. And we pull it out and throw it away. And he said, sometimes it's been that way with people too. But for the women, I want to say the power of women. There is a gender difference in power. And one of our first teachings around the fire in the middle of winter, which was our teaching time of the year, we would teach that in the beginning of everything, there was nothing but the Creator and the eagles. And the Creator began to make the universe. Started with the heavens, the heaven. And to indicate heaven, the Creator put up the sun. And our word for the sun is a very easy word. It's W-I, it's pronounced we. And to put a place for all of us, the humans and all of our relatives to live, the Creator started with a large molten rock. And that's part of the reason why our sweat lodges have large hot rocks. We go back to the beginning of life every time we go into a sweat lodge. And if you don't have the authority to conduct sweats, you shouldn't do it. Because remember that guy down in Arizona, he thought it was about punishing people. A lot of young people say, I want to go in and suffer for the people. And I say, not me. I want to go in and get a blessing for the people. Because every time you go in to get a blessing. So, Iraq nation is pronounced Iya, two nasal N's. I nasal N, Y-A nasal N. Not Inyan, but Iya. So you put heaven, we, and earth, Iya, together. It's Weya. And that's how we say woman. So think about that. Women are heaven and earth together. Everything that's happened to Indian people almost forever has been started by women. Even the pipe was brought to us by a white buffalo calf woman. That woman spirit taught us not only about the pipe, but taught us sacred ceremonies that pretty much guide our lives. Today we'd like to start erasing some of those barriers that are between us. Because how can it be that after 150 years people still really don't know us? And I lost track, I think it's 24 grandchildren. I want them to not have to go through the same kind of hurt that I did just because of ignorance. And ignorance, I mean, is people who are misinformed or uninformed. It doesn't mean stupid. To me, it just means misinformed or uninformed. So today is kind of the opening door of that. And I thank all of you for being here. And again, Peter is a young man, but he's a very knowledgeable young man. He pretty much grew up with these ways. When I was a young boy, all the things we're doing and talking about today were illegal. It's kind of hard to believe, but it was illegal for American Indians to pray like this until 1978. I mean, that's, to me, incredible. 1978. And so I was already, I'd been to Vietnam, I was a parent, I was a college graduate, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I realize now that what I want to do is get ready for the real world, which is the coming world, the spirit world. How do I get myself ready? By sharing things like this. And we cannot proselytize, we cannot go out and try to make people join us, like a lot of groups do. As a matter of fact, if you want to be a part of what we do, it's purely up to you, and it's not easy. And understand that just because you have a college degree doesn't mean you're going to come in like a man called horse and be a chief. It's very hard. So I'd like to have Peter talk about the ceremony, the food, and then we'll smudge and load the pipe. Peter.
My relatives. Two Arrows is my Dakota name. My Christian name is Peter Lenke. And I currently reside on the Crow Creek Sioux Reservation, which is in central South Dakota. And this is where my ancestors and other ancestors of Dakota people here ended up after we were exiled out of Minnesota by federal law. We were put into a prison camp there, and we've been there ever since. It's a very humble place, very poor, and problems that seem too immense to solve. Most of my people suffer from a depression, and where this depression comes from is from the things that happened in the 1800s. It's very live and very true. I was with my grandmother, Rose Keeble, one time, and her grandmother was brought from here as a prisoner and died shortly after she reached Crow Creek from starvation. I was with my grandmother, Rose, one time, and we were at a powwow up in North Dakota, and we got some tragic news that we had lost some of our blood relatives back home. And one of them was my best friend, 13 years old. He committed suicide. And two others of our close relatives died in a drinking and driving car wreck that same night. So we were on our way home. And as you can imagine, it was a pretty quiet ride. And I just started thinking about, all the people that we had lost here, at that time. And I asked my grandmother, I said, why is it like this? Why do these things always happen to us? Why is this tragedy is constantly with us? And she didn't say anything for a while. And I looked over at her, and there was a tear coming down her cheek. And she said in Dakota, "Ioki shicha." The best way I can translate that for you is a deep, embedded depression. It's genetically imprinted in us. And we carry that, and we pass it from generation to generation. She said long ago, our people had a very strong connection with the Creator. A very strong connection with the spirit world and Mother Earth. A very strong connection, a very, very strong connection amongst our people. And she said all that was taken from us like that. She said that's what we suffer from today. We suffer from a lack of identity. We don't know who we are, who we come from, where we're supposed to go. And all that comes from the time that Dixie here was talking about, when it was illegal to speak our language, illegal to practice our ways. Long ago out there, we were shot on the spot if we spoke our language. A lot of our elders back there are severely traumatized from Catholic boarding schools that made it a policy to kill the Indian and save the white man. My grandmother was raped and beaten by a Catholic priest at the age of 9 years old because she prayed in our tongue. And these things are carried by all our people. There's a lot of things in Indian country going on right now that is for the healing of our people. And this is one of them. It's not only healing of the Dakota people, but of the non-Indian people that live in this area. We work very hard on trying to educate and reconcile and to be how we're supposed to be. We're all put on this earth as one. A lot of our ancestors, I used to remember my grandmother, Rose Keeble, you know, she was in her 90s. Nobody really knew how old she was. She didn't either. But all she would say is, many moons, Takuja. Many moons, she'd say. But she was somewhere in her 90s when she passed away. And they would sit there and talk Dakota. My grandmother and my mother both came up in Catholic boarding schools where Catholicism was beaten into them. And but they held on to things. And for what they had to go through to hold on to the language, to our prayers, our way of life, our spiritualism was incredible. Only a woman could go through that and do that.
Oh.
I remember when she would come down, and every morning Mom she'd cook up bacon and make chonki, the kabubu bread, and coffee. And sometimes other relatives would come up at the same time, and you know, the conversation would kind of go to where 1862, the hangings, the exile, the prisoner of war camp down there. And she would always go, don't talk about those things. A lot of our elders, they didn't teach us these things. And my mother knew these things, but she never taught any of us children. And she was on her deathbed years back. And I was sitting in a room with her in the morning, early in the morning, and she started speaking in her tongue, and she was looking in the corner of the room. And I could tell from the little bit of language that I knew back then that she was talking to her mother and her grandmother. And she kind of snapped out of it, and she saw me sitting there by her bedside. So, oh, my son, you know. And I was looking at her and I said, Mom, how come you never taught us the beautiful language, the beautiful way of life? And she said, because I didn't want you to go through what I've been through. She said, your life would be much easier if you didn't know these things. And for the most part, she was right. She was a true Dakota Wia, a true Dakota woman, in the way she carried herself, the way she did things. And she would always remind me during the, you know, the later stages of her life. She would tell me that we are Dakota. And she said what that means, if you translate Dakota, what that means is to live or be in a state of peace and harmony. That's what that name means, or friends, allies, as they say today. We were a people of love and compassion. And I didn't know anything about where we come from or who we were at that time. I was like everybody else. I thought an Indian was what Hollywood showed us to be. Always on the warpath, killing, raping, stealing something. That's what I thought. That's what I thought who we were. Come to find out, we're the exact opposite of that. The exact opposite. In our way of life, the woman is sacred. She can do something that a man can't do. That's wear high-heeled shoes. Give life, of course. Give life. And our children were known as RochIHPCeremony, the sacred beings. Because they still have that connection with the spirit world. But today, it's not like that anymore. A lot of us have lost our way and are ashamed to be Indian because of how we get treated off of our reservations, the things that are said to us. So our people are scared to pick up these ways. It wasn't until about 10 years ago when something happened in my life that that came about that brought me to this way. The Champu Duta, we call it, the Red Road. That's the path we follow. When I was given a pipe, the man that gave it to me said, he handed it to me and he said, "Are you sure you want this?" And this is power. He said, "Are you sure you want this?" And I kind of stopped and I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Once you pick this up," he said, "your own people are going to shun you. They're going to make fun of you because you're trying to live that old way. You're going to lose your friends, your family." And so it really made me think hard about it there for a bit. And I accepted that pipe knowing these things. And he was right. When I come out of the Marine Corps, I was dealing with, things that Marines deal with. And the way I dealt with it was alcohol and drugs. Like so many of us veterans do. And it was that way of life, that red road, that helped me to put them things aside and to look at everything with sober eyes, to open my heart and my mind, and to walk that red road in a good way. It's tough. It's tough. Today, we're gonna hopefully send our relatives home. When people die in a tragic way, such as our ancestors did here, our elders, our old people tell us that unless a protocol is followed, they'll wander here when your life ends like that. A little while ago, I walked up to the top of the hill just to kind of get a feel for the area, and I heard a strange bird I never heard before. So I stopped and I looked and I could see our relatives on the hill up there. And they were oh so grateful, oh so happy that we're here today, gathering to help them. One of them is a blood relative. They were afraid that we forgot about them. It's because of these beautiful women here is why we're gathered here today. We're going to help our relatives to get home to their mothers, their fathers, their grandfathers, grandmothers. And they're mostly women. When our people were exiled out of here and they were placed on boats, cattle boats, and they were taken up the river to Crow Creek. At that time, it was mostly women. By then, most of the fighting age men were dead, hunted down, scalped, sold for bounty. Our people would run through these woods for their lives. It was the women that brought us through those hard times. I know I feel very lucky, speaking for myself, that we are even here today. We're almost annihilated. But it was because of the strength of the women is why we're here today. For what they had to do just to stay alive during that time was more than any one of us can think of. There are journals from that time, soldiers' journals, missionary journals. And they all kept very, very meticulous journals because they accompanied our people to their prisoner of war camp. And in one soldier's journal, he said that on the average, 12 to 15 children a day starved to death at Crow Creek there. And it also stated in those journals that what the grandmas had to go through just to get a little bit of food for their children. It states in these journals, and it's in that book, what's that book? I can't remember the name of it. North Country. And in there it speaks about some of the things that happened back then, and it talks about the women in the mornings would gather around the horse stable, and they would have to pick grain out of the feces of the horse just to eat, to survive. They tell us our people ate the barks off the trees. It said in there that honorable Dakota women had to do unspeakable things to feed their children. If it wasn't for them women, for them grandmas, we wouldn't be here today. So I want to tell each and every one of you that I love you dearly, and I thank you for coming and helping us today. You know, we're all here on this earth as one. We should all get along, help one another, support one another, and encourage one another. When we're done praying, we say Mitakuye Onyasi. Christianity, you're taught to say Amen. What that means, you see different translations of it, all my relatives. It doesn't only mean that just you and I are brother and sister. It means that we're brother and sister to all of creation. We all come from one place, Mother Earth. We're brother to the Buffalo Nation, the Tree Nation, the Fish Nation. We're all put here on this earth together to support. So when you hear that phrase, Mitakuye Onyasi, it's very powerful, very powerful. And shouldn't be taken lightly. Because we are all relatives. No matter what color we are, what size we are, it don't matter. We're all brother and sister. And as Dakota people, that's how we saw everything. Unfortunately, that love and compassion was exploited as a weakness. We can't undo the things that were done. All we could do is come together and move forward as one. Put them things behind us. It's good that we're here, we're honoring, and we're remembering them. It's good. It needs to be done.
There may be one or two people that don't know. This is Mayor Ardell Brady, and I just want to tell you what a great what a great thing it is that you've taken time out of your busy day to come and be a part of this, and just your being here gives all of us a lift. So far, this has been one of the best days of my life. I feel I'm not terribly old. I'm old, but I feel great today. I feel better than I have in a long while, and it's partly because of this. And I really do thank you very much. So again, it's our mayor. So
before I read this, last night I was at an event in St. Paul, put on by the St. Paul Foundation, and our director of our Civic Theater, Gregory Stavro, was honored for a couple plays that he has put together for race, and the program that was the 6th annual was Facing Race, We're All in This Together. The keynote speaker was Anton Trier, or Trier. He's an Ojibwe professor, PhD at Bemidji State. I've gotten to know Anton because he and I are both on the Minnesota State Arts Board. He was the keynote speaker. He started for about 2 minutes in his address speaking in Ojibwe, and everybody was kind of like, yeah. And he finally stopped and he says, oh, did you want English? He said, and he said, they just told me to be a keynote speaker. They didn't tell me what language I had to do it in. The other thing he said, when people call Bemidji State and they ask for the foreign language department, he always says, tell them it's the English department. So it's a bit different there. He's been very positive in getting in Bemidji a number of the signs and different things in the city with both English and Ojibwe on them. So he's written a book that just came out, and it's a humorous title, Everything You Wanted to Know About Indians But Were Afraid to Ask. And I've got an autographed copy that he gave me. Didn't give me, I bought it. He signed it for me. He signed it for me. But just looking at it, I haven't had a chance to even start, but it's there are a lot of, can I just say, generic questions that are answered in here that will be very helpful, I know, for myself to understand things a whole lot better. So with that, I will read the City of Rochester Proclamation. Whereas the indigenous peoples of North America, the first Americans, have lived in this area for nearly 13,000 years. And whereas throughout their long history, the Great Dakota Nation has traditional and cultural ties to the state of Minnesota, even to the great city of Rochester, it is time to celebrate that rich history. And during Celebrate Dakota Week, we seek to build on and strengthen the rich Native American history that exists within our city and its Native American community through the collaborative efforts of the History Center of Olmsted County, the Friends of Indian Heights, the Rochester Public Schools, the Native American Center of Southeast Minnesota, and the Mayo Clinic Diversity Networking Group Celebrate Dakota. And whereas it is the aim of Celebrate Dakota Week to increase the awareness and knowledge of the Rochester community of the peoples of the Dakota Nation that has and continues to reside in our fair city, along with numerous other Native Americans from Osage, Ojibwe, the Ho-Chunk nations, whose ancestral voices, sacrifices, and lives have sanctified the land on which Rochester now resides. Now it is time to listen and to learn that we might better understand together. Now therefore, I, Ardell F. Brady, Mayor of the City of Rochester, do hereby proclaim April 24th to May 1st, 2012 as Celebrate Dakota Week in witness whereof, and have hereunto set my hand, cause the corporate seal of the City of Rochester to be affixed this 24th day of April 2012. Ardell F. Brady, Mayor, City of Rochester, Minnesota. Thank you so much.
We're so glad you made the mayor. Woo! Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to sing a song, an ancient prayer song. And it's a song that originated with the horse nation, the horse ceremony. As you all may know or may not know, the horse is a very, very sacred animal. And we call upon the horse nation for their strength, their guidance. And this is a song that originated from that long, long time. Today, it's called the Creator Song. And the words of that song say, Creator, I pray to you. I pray to you first so that the people may live. Wakataka toka heya che wakielo hae. Wakataka toka heya che wakielo hae. Mitaku yeho wanikdacha toka heya che wakielo hae. Wakataka toka heya che wakielo hae. Wakataka toka heya che wakielo hae. Mitaku yeho wanikdacha toka heya che wakielo hae. Oh, mitakase.
Oh, once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We really appreciate this.
Long ago, when our people wanted to give a gift that was very, very special, a very, very special occasion, they would give a buffalo robe. Because within that buffalo robe, it meant life. You could take that buffalo robe and you could turn it into clothing. You could turn it into shelter from the weather. You can do other things with it. You can create toys for your little ones. You can create tools to help you. And in the hard times, you can eat it. So that gift was a gift of life, that buffalo robe. Now, of course, today, it's very hard to do that anymore. So what our grandmas did was they started making these. And it's a hand-stitched star quilt. Now our grandmas, when they stitch these, every stitch is done in prayer. To us, prayer is the most powerful thing in this universe, and we rely on it daily. So our grandmothers, when they make these, they pray with every stitch. They pray for whoever's going to receive this blanket, it'll bring them good health and happiness.
Ladies want to help put it around the
We
back.
give a star because back in the ancient times, all the tribes here knew us as the RochIHPCeremony, the star people. That's what we were known as, the star people.
Keep you warm today.
So that star represents the Dakota people. And if you look at that star, it looks like teepees camped in a circle. That also meant the Dakota people, for that circle of life. Everything we do is in a circle. That represents that circle of life. So that was just a little background on a handmade star quilt that we always give as
Ready to
gifts.
speak? Okay.
Honor, and I Thank you so much.
We thank you.
Thank you.
Our mayor now is going to be sleeping cozy Rosie. He's got a new blanket, right? That's a joke. My name is RochIHPCeremony. That's my Lakota name. It means good boy. I would like to speak very briefly on reconciliation. Our people could be the most bitter because of all the terrible things that we have had to endure. But there is a better way. We have been given the most powerful gift this world has ever known. Can you guess what it is? It's more powerful than any nuclear weapons, more powerful than an atomic bomb. It's a gift of Wakantaka, Great Spirit God. It's a gift of love. Think what you could do. We would no longer have poor people. We would no longer have wars. We would have no longer, because of the proper, more equitable distribution of gifts, we wouldn't have any poor people. We need to build 3 kinds of bridges based on the love of God. The first bridge we need to build is a bridge of mutual understanding. And the key word is mutual. It's got to be both ways. When we come together, we finally begin to understand why we act and do things differently. We say, I understand now. So we build a bridge of mutual understanding. And that's the key. Building a bridge of mutual understanding based on the love of God. Secondly, we need to build a bridge of mutual enrichment. You may have an idea, I may have an idea. As long as we remain separate, we only have one idea. When we come together and exchange those ideas, both of us become richer. We no longer have our own idea, but the idea of the other person. And finally, we need to build a bridge of mutual respect. I am a person, you are a person. No less, no greater. When we build these 3 kinds of bridges based on the love of God, we would have peace at last. Our problem is we do not use that love to do those things. I cherish for each of you today to begin building those 3 bridges. A bridge of mutual understanding, a bridge of mutual enrichment, and thirdly, a bridge of mutual respect. Oh, go in peace.
We can't undo the things that were done. All we can do is come together, move forward as one. Put them things behind us.
My name is Edward Lonis Jr. I am an enrolled member of the Spirit Lake Dakota Nation. I currently serve as the chairman of the board at Diversity Foundation, Inc., a Minnesota 501(c) nonprofit organization committed to bridging the cultural gap between and among all people. I am also a direct descendant of both Sioux Dakota chiefs Waneta and his son Wanatan, Little Charger, who once lived and called Rochester area in the southern Minnesota their original homeland up until the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862. My ancestors were among those imprisoned at Fort Snelling and who were later forcibly exiled from Minnesota. Since 1995, Diversity Foundation's executive director, Lyle Rustad, and myself have helped organize and facilitate many intercultural reconciliation and outreach activities among our neighboring Great Plains Indian reservations, where many of my Dakota relatives continue to struggle and live under nearly third world conditions. We would again like to express our sincere thanks and appreciation to Mayo Clinic's Celebrate Dakota, Mayor Brady, and the City of Rochester. We welcome each to continue to partner with us in our efforts to improve understanding, social economic conditions, and relationships between our native and non-native people.